The sky above Sector 9 turned red when Rami's patrol ship was hit. His hands tightened on the controls as warning lights flashed around him. Smoke filled the small cockpit. The ship spiraled toward the ground, breaking through the thick clouds of an unknown forest planet. Rami braced for impact. The crash was hard. Metal groaned. Glass cracked. Sparks flew as the ship slammed into the muddy forest floor and slid across the ground. Everything went silent afterward except for the soft hiss of steam escaping broken vents. Rami opened his eyes and checked his body. No broken bones, a few cuts and bruises. He coughed and pulled himself out of the pilot's seat. The door was jammed, but with a few hard kicks, it gave way. He stepped outside and looked around. Tall trees stretched toward the sky. Thick vines wrapped around their trunks. The air was damp and heavy. Strange bird-like sounds echoed from somewhere deep in the woods. Rami grabbed his small bag, slung his rifle over his shoulder, and moved away from the wreck. He needed a place to hide and a way to send a signal. But this planet was not on any of his charts. It was remote and wild. That worried him. Still, survival came first. After walking for almost an hour, he saw something strange through the trees. Black smoke rose in the distance. Another crash, maybe another ship. Rami moved carefully, staying low. As he got closer, he saw what remained of a small escape pod. The hull was burned, and one side had been torn open by trees. Then he saw movement. A figure stepped out of the smoke, tall and fully armored. The armor was silver with blue lines glowing across it. The helmet had no visor, just a smooth surface. Rami raised his scanner. It showed no known human or allied design. That made his hand tighten around the rifle. The figure turned to him slowly, then raised both hands. No weapon, no threat. "Who are you?" Rami called out. The figure said nothing at first, then, in a calm voice, a woman answered, "I'm not your enemy." Rami didn't lower his guard. "Prove it." The woman pulled something from her belt and placed it on the ground. It was a small Q-band old universal signal tool. She pressed it. A clear sound wave spread out from it. It was a distress signal, set to open channels. That meant she wanted help too. "You crashed here?" Rami asked. "Yes," she replied. "I was pulled out of orbit by an attack. Same as you, I think." Rami looked at the damage on her pod. It was worse than his. The side was melted like it had taken a direct blast. The woman's movements were steady, but he could tell she was hurt somewhere. Before he could ask anything else, a noise echoed nearby, a mechanical click, then another. Rami turned fast. Between the trees, small black shapes crawled toward them, machines, four-legged, with red lights in their heads. "Drones, move!" the woman shouted and pulled Rami behind a large tree. One of the drones opened fire. Blue sparks flew from the ground as the shots hit. Rami ducked and fired back. The drone sparked and dropped. The woman stepped forward, her arm glowing. A small pulse cannon slid out from her armor. She fired twice and hit both targets cleanly. The drones dropped with a crack of smoke. Silence returned to the forest. "They are still scanning the area," she said. "More will come soon. We need to leave," Rami said. "Do you know where the nearest high ground is?" The woman nodded. "There is a ridge 2 kilometers north. If we reach it, we can see the sky and try the signal again." They began to move quickly through the forest. Rami kept looking back, half expecting more drones. The forest grew thicker. Strange plants brushed their arms. Insects buzzed in the air. "I'm Rami," he said as they walked. "Pilot. Human Fleet Patrol." "I'm Mira," she replied. "My people are from a neutral system far from here. I was traveling alone when they attacked." "Who are they?" he asked. "Machine," she said simply. "Not natural. Not built by any government I know. They act like a swarm, but move with purpose." Rami didn't like the sound of that. They reached the ridge as the sun began to set. The sky turned orange and purple from the top. They could see more smoke trails in the distance. Maybe other crashes. Maybe enemy bases. Mira pulled off her helmet. Her face was calm but marked with dust. Her hair was tied back. Rami could see a small cut near her eye. "You're hurt," he said. Mira touched the cut lightly. "It's nothing." He looked at the heavy armor covering her body. "You sure you're not hiding more damage?" She glanced at him. Without a word, she reached behind her back and started to remove pieces of the armor. The chest plate dropped first, then the shoulder guards. Underneath was a plain black suit. She moved her arms without struggle. "Do I look hurt to you?" she asked. Rami watched her for a moment, then smiled slightly. "No, I guess not," but deep down, he knew something was wrong. She was strong, yes, but not untouched. No one walked through a crash into drone attacks without taking damage. She was hiding it, maybe for his sake, maybe for her own pride. As night fell, they built a small shelter under the trees using parts from the escape pod. Mira set up the signal cube again and adjusted its frequency. Rami started a small fire and shared the last of his rations. They sat in silence, listening to the soft hum of the signal and the strange sounds of the forest. Tomorrow they would plan their next move, but tonight they stayed awake, watching the shadows and waiting for whatever was coming next. The night passed slowly, the fire crackled with soft light, and the signal cube blinked with steady rhythm. Rami did not sleep much. His eyes stayed on the forest, watching for any sign of movement. Every few minutes, a sound would come from the trees, something crawling, something whispering through the leaves. Mira sat still beside him, her helmet beside her, eyes half closed. She rested, but she was not sleeping either. When morning came, the fog hung low over the ground. The light through the trees was pale and gray. Birds flew overhead, their wings loud in the silence. Rami stood and stretched his arms. His body was sore from the crash and the night on the hard ground. He looked at Mira. She was already checking her armor, reattaching parts and tightening straps. "You always move like this?" he asked. "Always ready," she answered, sliding her arm into a metallic plate. Rami walked to the signal cube. The lights were still blinking. No answer yet. He tapped the side of it. Still nothing. Mira looked at the sky. "The signal is reaching low orbit, but the forest is thick. It may take time before someone hears it." "We don't have much time," Rami said. "Those machines may be tracking the signal." "They are," she replied. "But they take time to triangulate the source. We still have ours." Rami packed his bag and loaded his rifle. "So what's the plan now?" Mira checked her small wrist screen. "We head east. I detected energy pulses last night in that direction. Might be a downship or a power source. Either way, it's worth checking." Rami nodded. He trusted her instincts, even if he still didn't know her well. They moved through the forest quickly. Mira took the lead, stepping silently across branches and rocks. Rami followed close behind, careful not to make too much noise. The deeper they went, the stranger the trees became. Some had glowing blue marks on their bark. Others gave off a faint hum when touched. "This planet," Rami said, "is not on any of our maps. It's like it was hidden." Mira touched one of the glowing trees. "It was hidden. My people call it a ghost world. There were rumors it once held ancient technology, forbidden zones, dangerous energy. Most travelers avoided. Then why were you here?" Mira paused before answering. "I was tracing a signal. Same as you. I didn't know it would lead me here." They walked for another hour before finding the source of the energy pulse. A small wreckage was tangled in the roots of a fallen tree. The ship was triangular, with burned wings and a shattered engine. It was not human-made. "This is not from your people either," Rami said, scanning it. "No," Mira replied. "This is from the old systems, abandoned technology. Someone must have reactivated it inside the ship. They found a power core still humming." Mira linked her wrist screen to it and pulled data from the logs. Her face turned serious. "What is it?" Rami asked. "The machines that attacked us. They were not random. They followed this ship. Something inside it triggered their sensors. A code. A signal. Maybe a command." Rami stepped back. "So this ship brought them here or woke them up." Mira said, "This forest might be there. Home now. A resting ground for forgotten weapons." A soft beeping sound came from Mira's wrist. She turned fast, scanning the area. "They found us," she said. "Drones are coming. For units. Fast." Rami raised his rifle. "Where do we run?" "No time to run," Mira said. "We hold them here." The first drone came between the trees. Mira fired at once, a blue bolt hitting it in the head. It dropped. 3 more followed, jumping through the air. Rami took cover behind a large tree and fired his pulse rounds. One drone exploded. Another tried to circle them. Mira jumped over a log and tackled the last drone with her bare hands. Her armor sparked as the drone slashed her side. She slammed it to the ground and ripped out its core. Smoke filled the air. The forest was quiet again. Rami ran to her. "You're hit, I'm fine," she said, touching the burn on her armor. "You keep saying that," he said, frowning. Mira stood slowly. Her breathing was heavy. The burn on her side glowed faintly. She didn't look fine. But she didn't complain either. They moved away from the wreck and found a small cave behind a ridge. It was dark and cool inside. They sat for a moment, catching their breath. Rami broke the silence. "I've seen a lot of soldiers. You fight like someone who's been through more than one war." Mira leaned her head back against the wall. "I lost my team 2 years ago, defending a neutral colony. I was the only one who survived. Since then, I've moved alone. I'm sorry," Rami said. "I don't want sympathy," she replied. "I just want to stop whatever this is before it spreads." Rami looked at the scanner. One of the drones had a tracker. "Others might follow. We need to destroy it," Mira said. Rami placed the drone remains on a rock and opened the casing. Inside, he found something strange. A crystal. Not a power source, but something older. Mira's eyes narrowed when she saw it. "This is not their tech," she said. "This is from the same source as the ship. Someone built these machines using ancient parts, mixed with modern code. That's why they don't match anything we know." "Can we use this against them?" Rami asked. Mira nodded slowly. "Maybe, if we trace the code, we can find the core. The source, if we destroy that, the rest will fall." Rami smiled. "Then let's find it." They packed up again. Mira rechecked her armor. The burn on her side was still there, but she ignored it. Rami looked at her. "You sure you're good to keep going?" Mira looked him in the eyes. "Do I look hurt to you?" Rami didn't answer. He just picked up his bag and followed her out of the cave, deeper into the forest, toward the unknown signal that waited for them. The forest became darker as Rami and Mira walked deeper into the valley. Tall trees stood close together, their branches weaving into a roof that blocked most of the sunlight. Strange plants grew around them. Some gave off soft green light, while others opened and closed like they were breathing. Rami scanned the area with his wrist device. A signal blinked on the edge of the map. It was moving slowly, just ahead. Mira crouched near a large root and pointed forward. "They're down there," she said. "Not drones this time. These are walkers." Rami whispered. Mira nodded. "Machines with legs. Large ones. They move like animals, but think like hunters." They moved slowly toward the signal. Rami watched every step. Twigs cracked under his boots. Mira walked like a shadow, silent and alert. When they reached the edge of a deep slope, they stopped and looked down. Below them was a wide clearing. The ground was torn, covered in deep marks like claws had dragged across the soil. In the center stood 3 large machines. Each had 4 legs, thin like spider limbs, and a round body that pulsed with red light. Small wires hung from their bodies like tentacles. Rami whispered. "They're harvesting something." The machines were pulling roots from the ground. Black roots that glowed from inside. The machines cut them, scanned them, and stored them in their cores. "They're not here by chance," Mira said. "They are feeding." Rami narrowed his eyes. "Feeding for what?" Before she could answer, one of the walkers raised its head. A long sensor arm lifted from its back and turned toward them. "Down," Mira hissed. They dropped behind a thick log as the walker's sensor scanned the slope. A red beam passed over the area and stopped just inches from Rami's hand. He held his breath. The beam paused, then moved away. Mira touched his shoulder. "We have to disable them before they find the cave." Rami looked at her. "How?" "We can't fight them directly. Their armor's too strong. There's another way," she said. "These roots, whatever they're taking, if we can poison the source, we might damage their system from inside." "That's risky," Rami said. "What if it doesn't work?" "We have no better choice," Mira replied. "We follow the roots. Find where they begin." They backed away from the slope and moved north, following the direction the roots had come from. It took hours. The ground became rougher. The plants grew taller. Strange flowers opened and turned toward them as they passed. Then they saw it, a large tree, taller than all others. Its trunk was thick and black, glowing with the same color as the roots. The base of the tree was surrounded by still water. The roots stretched out like a web. "This is it," Mira said. "This tree is the source." Rami looked at the water. "It's protected. That's why the machines haven't come here yet." They moved around the edge of the water and collected samples from the roots. Mira mixed them with powder from her belt and placed the mixture into a small container. "This will break their code signal," she said. "If we place it back into the roots near the walkers, it will enter their system and corrupt it, but someone has to get close," Rami said. "I'll do it." Mira said. "No," Rami replied. "You're already hurt." "I can still move," she said. "You always say that," Rami said. "But this is different. Let me do it. I can be fast." "You cover me from the ridge." Mira looked at him for a long time, then handed him the container. "If they spot you, run. Do not fight them. Get out alive." Rami smiled. "Same to you." They returned to the ridge above the clearing. The walkers were still working, unaware of the danger coming. Rami took a deep breath and slid down the slope, staying low behind rocks and fallen branches. Mira climbed a tree nearby and raised her arm cannon. Keeping her eyes on him, Rami reached the edge of the clearing and crawled toward one of the roots. It pulsed under his hands. He opened the container and poured the mixture into the crack. The root absorbed it at once, the glow flickering. One of the walkers turned suddenly. Its sensor twitched. Rami froze. The red beam scanned the area. Then the walker gave a low sound, a deep hum. The others stopped. The clearing went silent. Then all three walkers turned toward Rami's direction. He ran. Branches whipped his face as he jumped over roots and dodged rocks. The machines gave chase, their legs moving fast and smooth. Red lights flashed. Energy blasts hit trees beside him. Mira fired from the tree. Her shots hit one of the walkers in the leg, making it stumble. She fired again, hitting another one in the back. Sparks flew. Rami kept running. The forest seemed to pull him in. He tripped and fell near a rock but rolled and got back up. Behind him, one walker stopped and shook, its lights blinking. The poison was working. The red lights dimmed. The walker collapsed, its legs folding. Another walker froze in place. The third one fired wildly, then turned in circles. Rami reached the ridge and climbed up, panting. Mira dropped beside him, breathing hard. "You did it," she said. "We did it," he replied. They watched as the last walker fell. The forest was quiet again. The roots stopped glowing. "The code is broken," Mira said. For now, Rami looked at her. "You sure you're not hurt?" Mira looked down at her armor. One shoulder was cracked. Her arm was bleeding slightly. Under it, she removed the damaged piece and turned to him. "Do I look hurt to you?" Rami smiled and handed her a bandage. "Maybe just a little." They laughed softly, both knowing the fight was not over. But they had won this round, and together, they were stronger. After the battle with the walkers, the forest returned to silence. The roots had stopped glowing. No more machines followed. Still, Mira and Rami knew the calm would not last. The enemy was not finished. Something deeper was still active. Something pulling all these machines together. "We need answers," Mira said, walking beside Rami through the quiet forest. "This is more than random attacks. There's something hidden on this planet." Rami nodded. "You think it's a control center maybe," she said. "Or a mind behind all this, something older. Something left behind." They moved through thick trees for hours. The land became dry and rough. The ground sloped downward, and the trees slowly vanished. Soon, only short, sharp rocks stood like broken teeth in the dirt. Mira checked her scanner. "We are near the source of the first signal." Just beyond this ridge, they climbed the ridge and stopped at the top. Below them was a wide open land, covered in dust and stone. In the center was a large dome, half buried in the ground, round. It stood walls of black stone, cracked with age but still standing. Thin towers reached into the sky, broken at the top. It looked like a city, but not like any city built by humans or known alien worlds. It was old, forgotten, a buried city. Rami whispered. Mira nodded. The stories were true. This place was real. They climbed down into the ruins. Every step kicked up dust. The stone walls were smooth but covered in strange symbols, curved lines, and shining dots that moved faintly when touched. What language is this? Rami asked. Not sure, Mira replied. But I've seen it before. Long ago, on a mission, in a different sector. My people believe these cities were part of an ancient alliance. They vanished thousands of years ago. Why did they vanish? No one knows. Some say they became machines. Others say they were destroyed by their own weapons as they walked deeper into the city. They reached a large stone door, half open. Inside was a dark hallway lit by soft blue lights. The walls were cold and smooth. They followed the path until it opened into a large chamber. At the center was a round table made of crystal. Around it stood broken chairs and fallen beams. On the walls were maps, star systems, routes, and data panels still blinking with old energy. This was a meeting room, Mira said. A command center. Rami touched one of the maps. It showed the nearby star systems. A red mark blinked on the edge of the screen. That's the signal, he said. It's coming from here. This city is the core. They found a working terminal at the edge of the room. Mira placed her device on it. The screen lit up with faded light. A message, she said. It's from someone who lived here. A warning. She read the message aloud. If you are reading this, the machines have awakened. We tried to shut them down, but their code adapted. They turned against us. They were built to defend. Now they destroy. If this city falls, the core must be sealed. Rami stared at the screen. They lost control of their own creations. Mira looked at the last line. The core is buried beneath the dome. That's where the control signal comes from. Suddenly, the ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. A loud hum filled the room. They heard us, Rami said. We activated something. They ran back outside. The sun was setting, and shadows stretched across the ruins from the far side of the city. Machines rose from the ground, tall, black figures with red lights in their chest. Not drones, not walkers. These looked more like guards. Human-shaped, but taller, faster, stronger. We need to move now, Mira said. They ran through broken streets, ducking behind walls. The machines moved with speed. One fired a pulse that hit a tower and caused it to fall. Rami and Mira jumped aside just in time. Mira fired back, hitting one in the chest. It staggered, but didn't fall. Rami threw a smoke charge. The area filled with fog, giving them a few seconds to escape. They found shelter inside a small chamber near the dome. Mira locked the door behind them. Inside, they found another terminal and a power cell. This can help us, she said. With this cell, we can overload the core if needed. Shut everything down. Rami looked at her. You mean destroy the city if that's what it takes, she said. We can't let these machines reach space. If they connect to any network, they'll spread. Rami placed his hand on the table. We need a plan. We can't fight them all. Mira looked at the crystal walls. There may be another way. If we reach the main console below the dome, we can send a shutdown command. The city's original code might still be there. Rami nodded. Then let's get there before they do. Before they left the chamber, Mira checked her armor. Her shoulder piece was cracked. She removed it and checked the wound underneath. It was bruised but not bleeding. Rami watched her. You should rest. Just for a while. She looked at him and gave a small smile. Do I look hurt to you? Rami shook his head. You look like someone ready to finish what she started. They stood side by side, ready to face what waited below the dome. Whatever they would find, they knew it was the heart of the danger, the place where it all began, and maybe the place where it could all end. Rami and Mira stood before the great dome, its surface half covered in dirt and vines. The sky above was dark with clouds, and wind moved slowly across the dead city. Behind them, the machines were still searching, moving through the ruins with steady steps. But for now, the area around the dome was quiet. This is it, Mira said, stepping toward the wide metal door at the base of the dome. The control center lies below. We get inside, find the main console, and end this. Rami followed her. You think the old codes will still work? We'll find out soon. she replied. The door was locked, but the console beside it was still active. Mira pressed a few keys, using symbols she had seen earlier. The door gave a low hum, then slowly opened. Dust and light poured out from inside. They stepped into a long hallway with curved walls. Blue lights flickered along the floor. The air was dry and still. It smelled like stone and old wires. This place is buried deep, Rami said. Feels like no one has walked here for 1,000 years. Mira walked ahead. Maybe they haven't. But their machines never stopped working. They moved through the hall until they reached a wide round room. In the center stood a tower of crystal and metal, rising from the floor to the ceiling. Thin wires wrapped around it, and lights moved slowly inside the core. This is the signal tower, Mira said. It controls the machines. If we send the shutdown code from here, it will reach all units on the planet. Rami stepped closer. And if we fail, they will break through and take control of everything. This tower will become their center. From here, they can connect to other worlds. Rami looked at the power cell they had brought. Then we do this right. Mira attached her device to the console. Symbols appeared on the screen. She moved through them slowly, translating the old code. Rami watched the entrance, ready for any sound. After some time, Mira spoke. There's a core inside this tower. We need to reach it. Only then can I send the shutdown code. How do we open it? Mira touched the side of the tower. A small panel opened, revealing a narrow tunnel that led into the center. I'll go in, she said. You stay here. Watch my back now. Rami said, You've been hurt. Let me go. Mira looked at him and shook her head. You wouldn't fit with your armor. I can move faster. Rami hesitated, then handed her the small tool set. Be careful. Mira crawled into the tunnel. Her light blinked as she moved deeper inside. Rami kept watch. His rifle was ready, his eyes on the hallway. Minutes passed, then Mira's voice came through the comm. I see the core. It's still alive. I'm connecting now. Take your time, Rami said. We're still clear out here. But just as he finished speaking, he heard something in the hallway, a soft, cold sound. A machine had entered. Rami turned and aimed his weapon. One of the tall machines stepped into view. It moved slowly, scanning the room. Its red eyes locked onto Rami. Behind it, more followed. Rami fired. The first shot hit the lead machine in the chest. Sparks flew, but it kept walking. Rami ran for cover behind a metal beam and kept firing. The machines returned fire, hitting the walls and floor around him. Mira, he said into the comm. We've got company. I'm almost done. She replied. The machines moved closer. Rami dropped a flash charge. White light filled the room, and the machines paused for a moment. Rami used that time to shoot again, hitting the second one in the leg. It fell and crawled forward. The other two kept moving. Inside the tower, Mira reached the core. It pulsed with weak blue light. She connected her device and began the shutdown process. Symbols flashed on her screen. Outside, Rami was cornered. One machine aimed directly at him. Then Mira's voice came through again. Code is in. Stand by. The tower made a loud hum. The lights inside turned red, then blue, then faded. The machines outside froze. Their eyes dimmed. One dropped its weapon, another fell to the floor. Rami looked around. The battle had stopped. Mira crawled out from the tower's side, her face covered in dust, her breathing heavy. She removed her helmet and stood up slowly. Rami walked to her. You did it. I think so, she said. They're shut down, but we still have to make sure. They checked each machine. No movement, no power. The signal was gone. Back at the console, Mira set a final lock on the tower. She used the last of the old city's energy to seal the system. Then she placed the power cell beside the core. If anyone tries to use this again, she said, the cell will trigger a burnout. The system will be destroyed. Rami sat on the floor. That's it. Then, we stop them for now. She said, there may be more on other planets, but this one is safe. They left the dome. The sky was clearing, and the wind was stronger now. It felt like the planet was breathing again. As they walked away from the ruins, a message came through Rami's wrist device. A fleet ship had received their signal and was landing nearby. "We're going home," Rami said, smiling. Mira said nothing. She looked back at the city buried behind them. Rami noticed her arm shaking slightly. Her side was still bruised. He touched her shoulder. "You're sure you're not hurt?" Mira smiled and removed the last piece of her cracked armor. "Do I look hurt to you?" Rami laughed and shook his head. "No, not even a little." They walked toward the rising sun, ready to leave the ghost planet behind. The sky was darkening as Rami and Mira moved quickly through the rocky path. Away from the ruined city, the wind carried the sharp scent of dust and metal. Behind them, the silence of the fallen machines felt heavy, but both knew the quiet would not last. Mira's breathing was steady, but her body showed signs of fatigue. The bruise on her side had grown darker. Her armor was cracked in places, revealing cuts beneath. She had kept moving without pause, but now she slowed, favoring one leg. Rami noticed but did not speak. He trusted her strength. They had survived this far because of it. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the ground. The earth vibrated under their feet. Mira's eyes narrowed. "They are coming," she said. Rami looked up to see shapes moving on the horizon, dark, fast, and many machines. More than before. "We need to find cover," Rami said. "The old city is too far." Mira scanned the area and pointed toward a cluster of large boulders nearby. "There, we can hold there." They sprinted toward the rocks, the machines closing in. Energy blasts hit the ground around them, sending stones flying. Rami fired back, trying to slow the pursuers. Behind the boulders, they set up a makeshift defense. Mira placed her small turret on a rock and loaded it quickly. Rami set up his rifle with a steady aim. The first wave of machines arrived fast. They moved in groups, their red eyes glowing with cold light. Mira fired the turret. Blue bolts shot out, striking machines and causing sparks. Rami picked off those trying to flank them. The machines adapted quickly. One brought a shield of energy that blocked the turret's fire. Another used fast jumps to close the distance. Mira took a deep breath and aimed her arm cannon. She fired at the shield, causing it to flicker. Then she fired again, breaking it. The machine staggered but kept moving. Rami called out, "We won't hold them forever." Mira nodded. "We need the fleet." "Where's the signal?" Rami checked his wrist device. "They are close." Minutes away, more machines came. The battle became a blur of light and noise. Mira dodged a blast, rolling behind a rock. She looked at Rami, her face grim but focused. "You ready to end this?" she asked. Rami nodded. "Let's finish it." They fought together, covering each other's backs. Mira's strength and skill amazed Rami. Despite the pain, she moved with precision. When a machine jumped at her, she caught its leg and slammed it to the ground. Rami took a heavy blow to his shoulder, but kept firing. The machines were relentless. Suddenly, the sky lit up with bright beams. The human fleet had arrived. Ships appeared above, their weapons targeting the machines. Missiles exploded, and energy blasts tore through the enemy ranks. The machines faltered. Without the central control, their coordination broke down. Rami and Mira pushed forward, firing the last of their weapons. One machine tried to attack Mira from behind, but she spun and fired her cannon, destroying it. The battle ended with a heavy silence. The machine stopped moving. Mira leaned against a rock, breathing hard. Rami came beside her and offered his water bottle. She took a long drink and looked at him. "Are you hurt?" he asked again. Mira smiled weakly and removed her helmet. "Do I look hurt to you?" Rami smiled back. "No, you look like a survivor." The fleet commander approached, thanking them for their bravery. Mira was offered medical aid and a place among the fleet. She looked at Rami and nodded. Together, they boarded the ship, ready for new missions and a future united against threats. The fleet ship moved away from the ghost planet, leaving behind the ruins and silence inside. Rami and Mira sat side by side in the common room. The hum of the ship's engines was steady and calming. Mira looked out the window at the stars. "It feels strange to leave that place," she said softly. Rami nodded. It was a forgotten world, full of danger, but also hope. We stopped the machines before they could spread. She turned to him. You helped me more than you know. I was not sure I could do this alone. We are stronger together. Rami said, you don't have to carry the weight by yourself. Mira smiled, her eyes warm. Maybe that is what I needed to learn. The medical team had treated her wounds, but the bruises and pain were still there. Yet, she moved with strength. Rami noticed her quiet moments of fatigue, but she never complained. The ship's captain entered the room. We will arrive at the fleet base in 2 hours. Command wants to debrief both of you. Rami stood. Understood. Mira followed, her hand brushing against Rami's arm. It was a small gesture, but it meant more than words. At the fleet base, they met with leaders and scientists. The ancient city's data was shared with experts who planned how to use the knowledge to prevent future threats. Rami and Mira were honored for their courage and teamwork. Later, alone in the briefing room, Mira looked at Rami. What will you do now? I will return to patrol, he said. There are many dangers in the stars, but I will always remember this mission. Mira smiled, and I will stay with the fleet. Maybe help others like me, lost and alone. Rami nodded. You don't have to be alone anymore. She reached out and took his hand gently. Do I look hurt to you? She asked one last time. With a soft laugh, Rami smiled back. No, not even a little. Together, they stepped into the bright light of the future, ready to face whatever came next, united by trust, strength, and the promise of new horizons.